It started as a dream, a challenge, a test of skill, strategy, and endurance. From the very first match, through the grinding battles, the impossible comebacks, and the heartbreaks, each moment has led us here. A road paved with triumph and defeat, where only the strongest survived. They have fought through the gauntlet, proving themselves against the best, rising above the rest. Now only a few remain. The stage is set, the lights are on, and history is waiting to be written. This is the final battlefield. Welcome to the Parallel Prime Championship, where legends are made.
Hi guys, welcome to the Road to Prime, the Parallel Prime Championship interview for some of the greatest players in Parallel TCG for the first ever event that's going to be happening at the Luxor HyperX Arena at Las Vegas. And we have here one of the champions that have qualified to the top 16, Viper. Viper, how are you doing, man?
Hi man, I'm doing great. Happy to be here, and I'm really looking forward to Vegas and the just big tournament, right? It's such a crazy thing.
Yeah, very crazy thing indeed, because top 16, that's the top 16 that we have at the Parallel TCG as of the moment. But again, we have some questions for Viper to get to know him better. And first question is, Viper, some of you, so the people here don't know who you are, but we at the Parallel TCG know you already. Tell us your TLDR story as a competitive TCG player, and what is your team right now?
Okay, so the easy part is I don't have a team right now. I'm just playing by myself, essentially as a hobby. I really love playing trading card games. I've been loving to play them ever since I was very, very young. I think at first I saw, these animes on TV, like Yu-Gi-Oh! That was one of my favorite ones. I was watching that when I was like, 4, 5, 6 years old. And eventually I realized, well, those cards exist in reality. So before I could read, I think I was like 5 years old, I was like bugging my parents, can you get me some of these cards? It looks really fun.
Yeah.
And just, I think back then the anime didn't really have rules, right? It's just very much, I summon this, attack this, and stuff like that. Eventually, get like 8, 9 years old, I start playing the game like very seriously on like a junior level, so to say. But I can, just like compete when I'm like 9, 10 versus like normal hobby league tournaments and trading card game stores. Like if you guys play those games, there's usually like a weekly tournament and everybody just comes together, pays like a little money, and we get some packs as prizes. So I did that, and the older I got, the more competitive I got playing trading card games. I eventually tried out literally every trading card game there was in the physical world. Then eventually Hearthstone got released, and I became very serious about playing Hearthstone as this digital card game. There were a lot of upsides to it. Like the downside is you don't have as much social things going on and such, and you don't have these like weekly good tournaments. But the upside is there's like no like sleight of hand or no cheating and no traveling and so on. So Hearthstone was really cool, and I became really good at Hearthstone. And then I was trying to compete in that. I did really well competing in Hearthstone. Eventually, Hearthstone is not that fun of a competition anymore nowadays, and it's also not as lucrative anymore. And Parallel feels like this emerging Hearthstone feeling of like a great trading card game coming to life, a great scene coming to life again. That's why I'm really enthusiastic about this, and we kind of see like this whole resurgence in trading card games overall in the whole world. I think there's many card games coming out, card games doing really, really well. So it's really a really cool time to be here. And yeah, that's like the short version of this like 20 years of story.
Nice TLDR right there, Viper. Like sort of a kind of an early version of you. I'm seeing like, oh, mom, buy me these packs, Yu-Gi-Oh packs, and like I'm pretty sure there has been some hesitations from some parents, but eventually they just gave in for you to make you happy, right? So yeah, kudos to starting early. And I know some of you guys are also starting early with your TCG journey, and you can be one of the competitive players like Viper is right now. But of course, in terms of competitive achievement, second question would be, what is your largest achievement in Parallel TCG so far, with being in the top 16 as the exception?
So I think Parallel essentially had 5 like roughly same difficulty level big tournaments so far leading up to this World Championship that we have now, and I managed to win one of those. So I think that's that's like a pretty easy biggest achievement there. Yeah, just really happy about that. It was a crazy tournament.
Dude, like that's a lot of tournaments to join in, and of course, you know, we have seen you. You have also been a champion in one of the majors, I think, and
Yeah,
yeah,
what I
majors,
was
right?
referring to.
Yeah, and it's amazing to get to be the champion of one of the majors and get a spot already at the knockout stages and prove yourself yet again over at the being the top 16. So yeah, amazing achievement already. And you know, I want to ask you right now before I go into telling you or asking about your preparation. Are there any specific matchups or players you're particularly excited or nervous about facing?
I think not really. I've been essentially competing in these card games, especially, which are like on the higher side of variance, right? At the top end, especially because if there's not a big skill gap between players, then, well, what else between some variance is going to decide who's going to win or lose. So I think everybody who's qualified to their top 16 World Championship level is really good at the game. So I'm not really nervous or excited about facing anybody. I think in particular, I've just been competing so much, playing with so many known and crazy players over like these decades at this point that I'm not too nervous, I guess, in that sense. And it's like a really cool thing to play with people that you know, to people who you're friends with, and you wanna like go and hang out after the tournament, maybe before the tournament as well and such. So I'm just looking forward to that, and I could, in that sense, say I'm excited to play with everybody because I think everybody is like a cool person to hang out with usually.
Yeah, it's like that's a very professional answer, man. Like, I'm not scared of anybody. I'm not also excited. I'm just neutral about everything. Like that's how you should be, right? Like, you have to control your emotions as a professional player. Like, not be afraid. Like, just believe in yourself. I think. So to go to the next question, this is quite personal, right? Because we want to know more about you and how you have been preparing for this championship. Like, can you give us some details on how you're preparing for the Parallel Prime Championship?
There hasn't really been any crazy ideas of how to prepare for this. Obviously, we have a new patch coming out relatively soon before the event, so there's not that much time. And there's also somewhat limited what you can do before. I think the very unique thing in a game like Parallel that is more or less still in the early steps, still starting out, we don't have these, I don't know, insane amounts of data on stats that we can analyze where I can check out, okay, this specific card versus this specific deck and this specific matchups, and I can search through hundreds of different deck lists and figure out all of those things. So there's not a whole lot of data that you can analyze, and tournaments are very different from just playing best of ones on ladder, because best of one ladder people just play very specific decks to just try to beat what is most played thing currently. And in tournaments where you have a ban and people have to play a way wider variety of decks, especially in the form that we have in Parallel, where we have to play like usually 4 very different archetypes of decks with the 4 different parallels that we have to pick. So the preparation is a lot of just like field crafting and just thinking, okay, what can I do? What can I try? What are even the options that are available? What could work? And then it just kind of comes down to, well, find somebody to practice with and play a lot of games yourself. Because you cannot just analyze these stats. You cannot just go by this. You cannot really, you could go and play with yourself as well. I think that works.
Yeah.
But it's usually just actually you have to get your own data, you have to get your own practice in, and yeah, you have to just get a lot of reps in. I think the interesting part here is that the meta hasn't changed too much from the last few events, even from the major that I've won. We've seen a few balance patches and a few things have gotten like a bit stronger, a bit weaker, but there's no fundamental big new set of cards released. There's no fundamental new super big patch with like 20 cards being changed or anything like that.
Yeah.
So it really is trying to figure out how can I get an edge compared to this, I don't want to say stale meta, but things where most people are probably like on the same page and they practice on the decks, and it's not going to be people defaulting to comfort picks as much anymore as in the past as well, because we've just seen these decks around for a while now, and that's kind of just my whole mindset going into prepping for this.
Yeah, it's a kind of also like a kind of a peek to how you're preparing. Like you're considering different factors, and I'm seeing like you want to look at data, like you've seen, like you've done in the previous previous competitive scene that you've been in, scrims or whatnot, and also repetition, right? So, yeah, it's amazing that you gave us a kind of a glimpse into how you've been preparing. But of course, there has been some challenges leading up to this event. So far, what has been your biggest challenge leading up to the event, and how have you overcome it?
I'm not sure there has been a really big challenge leading up to the event. Obviously, I've done well on the current meta, winning the major about a month ago, and things haven't changed too much. I guess one big challenge that I've been facing in general, like in competing in the last few years at this point, is like I do sometimes feel like I lack motivation to do like the extra little bit and to do like give it 110%, because some part of the reality of playing especially like card games and like any of these like variant games is you cannot just double the hours you put in and you double the win rate you get at the end. Like that doesn't work. Like you put the double hours in and you get like a little tiny bit of extra, which really matters if you play a year worth of tournaments. If you did the extra little bit thing in every tournament, it's going to give you better results, very, very likely. But sometimes leading up to one event, it can be like, damn, do I really put in the extra effort for this one event?
Yeah.
Because it's not going to be the craziest difference. And yeah, that's something I've been struggling with a bit, I guess. And I try to overcome it and just have the mindset of, well, it doesn't really matter if I'm motivated or not. I just got to do it. Just got to give myself the best odds, I guess.
Well, we've all gone there. Like, if you kind of feel like it's not enough, you have to get like oh no, for the lack of a better phrase, plus ultra. I think you know plus ultra, right? So yeah, I mean, it's hard to get to that plus ultra state, but yeah, we trudge on, we carry on, we keep moving. But moving forward, like fast forward, think of this scenario: you won. What would this championship mean to you and your competitive journey?
I think it's very hard to put that into words or really into consideration, because it's like, okay, if I win, like what happens next? I have no idea what's going to happen next, because I feel like Parallel has such a potentially really bright future of so many crazy cool things happening, and being the guy that wins this first championship could mean just so much for that. And I can't even fathom what that could even mean. I think it would be really, really insane with being the first to win a championship in Parallel, because I think Parallel can really have this long legacy of like many tournaments, many games, many things happening. So that would be, I don't know, it's really hard to put into words how much that could mean.
I would just have to say like Viper is speechless right now, and as to how he can't even fathom like that far. Like he has reached like that level. Like I'm so focused over at the competition, that will just be a surprise, so to speak. Like that's what I'm getting from you, man. Like it's kind of like it's kind of a dream, right, for some of the players here, like to win a championship. And getting to this place, getting to this position, being the top 16 is an amazing journey already for the professional players that we have here over at Parallel TCG. And with that's gonna be my last question right there, Viper. Like we ending with a possible win for you, being one of the top players in Parallel TCG as of the moment. And thank you for gracing us with this interview. And last words for our competitive players and future Parallel TCG players.
I think the best words I can give anybody is, if you enjoy playing a game, try to enjoy playing the game and don't try to make it into a chore. If it's a hobby, try to keep it fun, try to keep it enjoyable. And if you really enjoy competing, that is really, really great, but don't try to just burn out over it. Try to keep it enjoyable, try to keep it fun. It's probably going to net you better results as well, compared to just, I don't know, overthinking it, overdoing it, and so on. And yeah, at the same time, try to stay rational, especially if you want to compete, if you want to get into these tournament scenes, and try to just analyze things not based on outcome, but based on was it the right or wrong decision. I think that's probably the best basic tip that I can give anybody who's trying to compete in TCGs.
Well, thank you for that tip right there, Viper. Enjoy the game. That's what that's what I've been saying as well. Like everyone, if you enjoy the game, everything will come naturally to you, right? And just don't overdo it. And that's it. That's our the Road to Prime interview with Viper, one of the top 16 top players over at the Parallel Prime Championship. Don't forget to join in over at Las Vegas if you're there over at the HyperX Arena, or if you're not, just keep a watch on our official streams. See you guys over at the first Parallel Prime Championship. Bye.